Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and today should be a rather short one again because I'm having a look inside the box of the latest or first expansion of Witchstone, which is called Full Moon, which is a rather small expansion. Still, it comes with some interesting stuff, some of it more, let's say, cosmetic, but also definitely introducing some more mechanics, making this game even a little bit more thinky and more prone to powerful combos, which I definitely do appreciate in this game. And yes, it's designed by no one else than Dr. Reiner Knizia and Martino Ciacciera, who apparently co-designed this game here. So I think let's start with having a look inside the box, and then I will, as usual, talk you through some of the new mechanics. Overall, there are really only two different kind of, let's call it, modules, which you can easily introduce into the core game. So here's the rules, and as usual that comes with multiple language, so we have them in German and English, and I think the third one being France. I think that's the same as with the core game. Then we have some more of these familiar tokens. Then we have double magic tiles here, which is already part of, I believe, the first module as far as I can tell. So maybe let's have a closer look at that in a second. Here we have some board overlays, which definitely also spices up the game quite a bit. I will also come to those in a second when we go through the components here, or some of the new rules. I believe these are all part of the first module as far as I understood. And then, yeah, we have some plastic components here. First of all, we have these little towers, which are just here to pimp up the game to some extent, because you're placing them onto those tower spaces on the game board. And in case you're wondering, what are we going to do with those plastic miniatures here? These are more or less replacing your big witch token. So you take one of your colors, in this case that's the blue magician, and you place it on top of the tower here respectively. That's basically all that they do. And yes, we do have minis for all the different colors, different sculpts as well, and they look actually, yeah, pretty nice. Maybe let's zoom in on those for a second. And I believe this is basically artwork, or representing the artwork from the main game box here. So these are really the witches and wizards that you can play throughout the game. So that's basically cosmetic addition to the game. In the, let's say, normal mode of the expansion, you are supposed to simply remove the big witch from the game and you're not playing with her. But there is also, let's say, an optional variant for this expansion, making her a slightly more powerful, let's say, alternative to a normal witch. So you can still play with her, and when you place her, you get basically a simple bonus for that, either an additional action or an additional victory point when you place her. Like in the other game, once you have placed her upright, then yeah, she's sitting there until the end of the game. Maybe let's have a quick look at those doubling symbols here. Normally, if you remember the base game, there are no tiles that show the same symbol twice. That's different now in these bonus tiles. You will basically place them next to the game board at the start of the game, and you can acquire those through one of those overlay tiles here. So whenever you're making it here, for example, on the pentagram, you can either decide to go with a standard action, taking one of those owl tiles here, which typically score you a lot of points, or you can opt out to not take this bonus points here and simply grab this tile, which would then ultimately allow you to take one of those doubling tiles and place it into your cauldron. It doesn't automatically trigger the action respectively. You simply still have to do that through your normal tech. Of course, I think it can still trigger your second action, for example, or make it more powerful, but it's pretty much there to make your cauldron even more powerful, especially if you are whatever aiming to maximize on the pentagram action or here on the wand action here respectively. And in respect to these overlays, there is another one here at the center. Witchstone works pretty much the same way. Instead of placing a witch in here, you will simply remove the tile, and then yes, you will also allowed to grab one of those doubling tiles. And of course, you guessed it right, once they are gone, they are gone. On top of this, there is another one down here at the wand, and again, instead of taking that reward, you can claim this big tile here and then go for one of those doubling tiles. And you can always opt out not to take that large tile. You can still go for the normal action here. or a normal bonus here and then move on, but then you leave it there for another player. But maybe that's really what you're working for. Maybe you really have a lot of these energy links already out on the board and you really want to score those. And I think last but not least, there is one of those overlay tiles down here at the bottom row of the vial. So whenever you're moving out a crystal, you can place this crystal in the, let's say, any one of those vials here. If you opt to go for the first one here and it's still available, that is, you can, instead of taking the reward, which is one of those tiles, bonus tiles down here, you can take this tile and also will go for a double tile, which you then place into your cauldron. But again, as usual, you can also leave it here for the other players, because for whatever reason you really want to grab one of those doubling tiles down there. I believe getting those doubling tiles is a very powerful thing to do, but there might be some situation where you are not really able to place it effectively onto your board, for example, because there's not an awful lot of those left. Keep in mind, once they are gone, they are gone. Let's say you really want this pentagram one, but someone else already taken it away and only the witch is left, or these two, and you say, I don't really care about those anymore. In this case, you might say, no, I will go for the normal reward instead. And that's basically already the first module of the game, which is called, I believe, High Dosage Ingredients. Let's have a quick look at the second module, which is already the last module of this expansion, the Power of the Full Moon, which comes actually with those familiar tokens here. So those are not part of the first module, and this one mainly consists of those full moon cards, and in conjunction with the corresponding familiar tokens, you take the familiar token that belongs to your player token. There is some kind of a setup where you shuffle those 6 cards, you give the starting player 2 of those, he picks one, puts the other one on top of it, or I think the rules also say you can simply hand those out randomly. And the way how those work is that you place your familiar here into the middle of this card, and once during your turn, during your action, during your round basically, you can decide to place your familiar to the left or to the right side of the board. The left side always gives you basically a +1, so making another action more powerful, like the pentagram action here. So whenever you're taking a pentagram action, you can say, now I will activate this card, and you get an additional one. That's one way to use it, but then you have used it for this round, for this turn. Or you can use the, let's say, somewhat more special ability of this card, but that's also only once per round. And this one here, for example, allows you to use once during your action to use basically the connection of, let's say, other players free of charge. But I think you have to do that with one color only, so you cannot hop over 2 or 3 different kind of players connections, but you can hop over, let's say, 3 connections of one single other player. Pretty powerful. On top of those, there is this one here, which allows you to consider yourself always in the lead when you are moving on the wand. Normally you really have to be either in the lead or have to be tied in the lead in order to get, let's say, the special bonus. For example, down here, normally you would only get 2 extra pentagram actions, but if you are in the lead here on this wand, you get this reward pretty much double. And when you're using this card, you can always consider to be in the lead. Can be pretty powerful, again, if that's something that you want to do during your action. I think let's go through some of the others. This one gives you a bonus on your, what are those called, special hex tiles here. So let's say you get 1 extra witch movement, then from one of these extra tiles, in this case you get 2 of those. This one here allows you, when you place a crystal into one of these vials, you also get that action in extra time. Pretty powerful. This one here can be extremely nice because you can also consider, let's say, scrolls that are on the top of the shelf. Normally you will always start from the bottom. In this case, you can say, no, I want the topmost here. I only have 1 scroll action, but the topmost is the one that I really want. So I think this one here, for me, really seems relatively powerful. And last but not least, when you would gain one of these special hex tiles from the pentagram, you don't need to take the pentagram that you have just passed. You can also consider one of the other 2s here, which can also be relatively powerful, a little bit depending on what it is you want to do in the game. And I just noticed something when I looked at those cards. In fact, I forgot to show you something for the first module, because there are more, or 3 more scrolls. So basically 3 more ways how you can score some extra points in the game. And here it basically tells you that you will either get one of those bonus tiles while they're out. So you might wonder yourself, hey, there are only 4 of these overlays, but there are basically 6 of these doubling tiles. The remainder of the doubling tiles you get through these scrolls here. If you don't use the scroll, they will still award you 2 points at the end of the game. And this is simply, what are those called? Basically end of game scoring cards. So if you happen to have one of those doubling tiles at the end of the game, you get 3 points, then 5 points and 7 points respectively. If you don't any of those until the end of the game, then you will simply still score one of those points basically for free, pretty much doing nothing. And that's basically it, what the Full Moon expansion has to offer. Again, it doesn't really change the game dramatically. It simply gives you slightly more ways how you can burn your brain, and searching for even more powerful combos, again, which is something that is so nicely done in this game, so highly addictive. I really hope you find this video, or these kind of videos, somewhat helpful. Let me know what you think. And I think up next should be an actual playthrough of a game. Not quite 100% sure what I'm going to play. I'm always happy and open for suggestions if you want to see something which I either haven't covered on my channel, or maybe haven't covered for a lot longer time. Always, let's say, appreciate your input here. And yeah, before I forget, huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members. You guys are truly amazing. If you want to support my little channel here, you will find a link to my page on Patreon. You can join me here on YouTube. There is this little thanks button beneath the video. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. This also greatly helps the channel, of course. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And until then, bye bye.